Hello and welcome back to Jenna Gets Creative. Today we're going to test out some of the tutorials in 10-Step Drawing People by Justine Lecouffe and the Walter Foster creative team at Quarto Publishing Group. For those of you who don't know, I do have a second channel called the Westvale Archives that's all about books and writing, and normally when I've finished with an advanced reading copy of an upcoming title from NetGalley, I'll review it over there, but since this is an art book, it made more sense to review it over here. Unlike a lot of how to draw tutorial books I picked up as a kid or have since found published online, this book doesn't get halfway through the drawing and then say, add detail. The steps and examples do show quite a bit of intermediate detail development. That said, step 10 in all of these tutorials is add color, and that's a whole other set of skills that is not being taught in this book. Swatches of colors used or suggested, often with suggested shading or highlight tones as well, are printed next to the step 10 image on all of the full spread tutorials, but that's all the coloring instruction we get. I won't fault the book for that, though, as this is a drawing manual, not a coloring manual. First, let's try one of the eye tutorials and one of the lip tutorials, then we'll dive into one of the early full head portraits. I do like the variety in shapes that are demonstrated for all the facial features in this book, and the fact that the descriptive language given with each step avoids the problematic language we often see when describing non-Caucasian features. I do think that a novice artist practicing with this book would get enough variety in shapes here to be able to confidently communicate a wide variety of ethnic backgrounds. At this point, however, I would like to note that on some of the eye tutorials, the lashes are slapped in quite haphazardly, and the front view ears look exactly the same in every tutorial, despite being demonstrated in their own mini tutorials multiple times. Before we get into the full face attempt, I would like to say thank you to NetGalley and Quarto Publishing Group for approving me to review this title so quickly. I literally requested and got approved for this title on Sunday, and filmed this demonstration on Monday. I have provided the publisher with a full review through NetGalley and posted it to the book's Goodreads listing, but I'll also be publishing a blog post very shortly after this video goes out, and I'll review it on Amazon after it's published. If you're interested in getting this book, a release date is September 1st, 2020, and the publisher's MSRP for the physical paperback listing is $16.99 US. I'm not sure if they intend to sell the digital version I'm reviewing from, but I don't think it would work as well in a traditional single-page display e-reading app. I'm viewing a protected PDF file using Adobe Digital Editions, so I can view 2 pages at once as if it were a physical book laying open on the desk in front of me. All of the tutorials that are more than just practicing a single feature are full 2-page spreads, and seeing the whole tutorial at once is handy. Now that we've sampled an eye and a mouth and inadvertently drawn a cyclops, let's put a full portrait tutorial to the test. I'll be loosely following along with the front view face 2 on pages 18 and 19, though please note when I show the pages I was looking at when we get to the end that I was only looking to replicate all the individual style choices made in the tutorial, not produce an exact copy of the face the tutorial created. I did let the way the facial features evolved dictate the final shape and placement of the chin and jawline, and I've stopped at what can most accurately be compared to step 8, not step 10. What we're missing from the tutorial by the time I lay the pen down is shading in step 9 and color in step 10. One thing I noticed about the way Justine is instructing us to construct faces is there's no discussion of the Loomis method type divisions, where the skull is sliced horizontally into 3 segments before deciding where to put the facial features. Without making that consideration, it's easy to do what I ended up doing and have some or all of the features too high on the skull. I don't think I placed the eyes or nose too high for the final result, but I had to raise the jawline to put the chin at a reasonable height for the lips. In what feels like an odd contrast to that omission, when this book moves on to full body figures, it does devote several pages to dividing full body anatomy into 8 head height segments. Novice artists referencing this guide should remember that while 8 head heights is a good rule of thumb for the average adult anatomy, there's room for plus or minus a head when drawing extremes in typical body proportions, and characters with some forms of dwarfism are going to be even more than 1 head shorter overall due to restricted limb length. Additionally, keep in mind that young children have squishier proportions as well, and cartoon styles call for exaggeration. Traditional chibi proportions proportions are just 2 or 3 head heights overall, devoting a third to half of the overall height to the head itself. Overall, keeping in mind that this is an introductory set of tutorials for realistic human anatomy and specifically not a coloring resource or a resource on advanced or cartoony anatomy, I chose to rate this book 4 out of 5 stars. I'm still confused about dividing the full body anatomy but not the head, and I can't get over how similar every ear drawn in this book is. Now let's talk about what I ended up drawing with the full portrait tutorial. What I came out with is really cute in my opinion, and it was done very quickly, so it's far from perfect in any way, but I feel the need to roast myself a bit. Although the eyes are much more level than I normally achieve that effortlessly in a face drawing, they are absolutely not the same shape. Either the eye on the left is open a little farther, or the eyelid on the right is droopy. I went with the haphazard brush bristle lower lashes too, since I was breezing through this pretty quickly, and that's what the individual eye focus tutorials demonstrate doing. Second, those eyebrows. They're the same overall shape and position, but I really should have taken a little more time and allowed myself to rotate the page when filling in the hairs on the left. My right hand doesn't want to draw the smooth curves the right way for that left side arch, so many of the hairs are drawn top down instead of bottom up, which create a more defined edge along the top rather than the bottom like I wanted. Third, I ended up with a much fuller top lip than intended for the size of the bottom lip, and the final mouth shape and placement forced me to modify the jawline I had already roughed in. With all these changes, I ended up with a shorter, rounder face than the sample character in the tutorial. While the tutorial's character looks a bit like YouTuber Ricky Pointer, mine looks like Mila Kunis pretending to be Arya Stark. That's not a bad thing, and again, I wasn't trying hard to replicate the exact character created for the tutorial, but I started with a skull shape that should have ended up looking a lot closer. The jawline was a huge change in that regard. Again, thank you NetGalley and Quarto Publishing Group for the opportunity to review this book. This was fun and I rate it 4 out of 5 stars. If you want this, it comes out on September 1st and I will have the ISBN and other info to look for in the description. Thursday's video is going to be round 2 of my TSS character symbol tournament, so be sure to come back for that, and don't forget to vote in round 1 if you haven't yet. If you're looking for more to watch, I've got some suggestions up on the left side of the screen now, or you can click on my face on the right to check out the Westvale archives. I upload art content here twice a week at minimum, every Tuesday and Thursday, and if you like living life creatively, whatever that means to you, I'd love to have you along for the ride. Bye guys!